You got to use God. And you all know that already. I don't have to preach that to you. But be careful about using the truth. Don't use the truth as a weapon. Don't. It will not work. Use the truth only as it pertains to you. Okay? This is what I feel. This is what I know. This is what I said. This is what I did. Don't talk about yourself all the time, but you know what I'm saying. Speak the truth about yourself. Be careful about speaking the truth about others, because you can get into some trouble. I'm sorry, lady, but you are so ugly. No, because we have to be careful. We have to be careful. So, all right, I'll leave that alone right there. Psalm 69, 13 and 14. But as for me, my prayer is to you, O Lord, in the acceptable time. O God, in the multitude of your mercy, hear me in the truth of your salvation. The truth of your salvation. That's an interesting concept to really dive into someday. I'll touch on it a little bit today. But the truth of salvation. Deliver me out of the mire and let me not sink. Let me be delivered from those who hate me and out of the deep waters. In this psalm, what I want to relate to you is just a general concept. The truth makes you free. That's what it says. The truth of your salvation. Deliver me. He goes on. Deliver me out of, and then he speaks some certain things. Free me from the mire that I'm in. Free me from this mess that I'm in, whether it be of my own making or the making of others. In this situation, I believe that he's talking about what others have placed him in. But it can work either way. Just because we make our own bed doesn't necessarily mean that we have to continue to lay in it. We can ask God, I've messed things up. And I'm going to ask your forgiveness, and I'm going to ask for you to deliver me out of the mess I've made of my life. Talk to some people that have turned to Jesus Christ while in prison. And I mean truly turned to Jesus Christ, not a jailhouse conversion. I've seen way too many of those. They last for a very short period of time. But there have been people that have gone to prison, that have turned their life to Jesus Christ and said, Lord, here I am. It's a mire that I'm in of my own making. But I give myself to you. And I ask that you deliver me out of this mire. Does that mean that he'll be set free? Not necessarily free in a sense of confinement in a prison or a jail, but free to do some of the things that God has asked him to do. And I've seen some beautiful jailhouse ministries done by convicts. And they're very sincere. Just tell them. Verse 33, they answered him, we are Abraham's descendants and have never been in bondage to anyone. And this is the one I'm talking about a number of months ago, 4th of July weekend. How can you say you will be made free? And I told you at that time, and I'll remind you again, that the statement that the Jewish people are saying, we are Abraham. Now he's talking to believers. He's talking to people that believe that he's the Son of God, that believe that he's the Messiah. He's speaking directly to them. And they're saying this to him. We are Abraham's descendants and have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you will be made free? That is probably the stupidest statement I've seen in the Bible. Not the Bible's being stupid. I'm saying that a statement made by a person, or persons in this case. Because if you go historically, if you just look in the Word of God, we'll see in the book of the Exodus that indeed they were not free. The Hebrews were in bondage for 400 years in Egypt. Slaves. And here, this person makes or these people make a statement saying, well, we're Abraham's seed. Those people under the control of Pharaoh were Abraham's seed as well. Those were the sons of Jacob. Well, they're the descendants of the sons of Jacob. Those are Abraham's seed. They were in slavery to the Egyptians. And then I look at history and I'll say, what about the Assyrians? They carted off into slavery the entire nation of Israel, the northern kingdom. Were they slaves? Yes, indeed. Did they go to Assyria because they thought they wanted to go on a vacation? No. They went to Assyria as slaves and never came back. The northern tribes never came back. Technically, some migrated back to Jerusalem. The Babylonians. We look at Daniel. Was Daniel a free man? No. He served in the king's court, but he was still a slave. He was taken from Jerusalem. He was brought to Babylon, and he served the king of Babylon. The Persians. Again, Daniel served the Persian king. As a free man? No. He was a slave. Now, he was quite well-to-do as a slave. He did pretty well for himself, thank God, because God put him in the position that he did as a slave. And he served God in a mighty way. The Greeks, again, overran what would become Judea, and they had to serve the Greeks. And then the Romans came. So to say a statement like we've never been slaves to anyone is a flat-out lie historically. That's not true. Now, maybe they're saying, well, in our hearts, we might have bowed our knee to the king. Over the last couple thousand years, we may have done that. It wasn't quite that long, but long enough. But in our hearts, we were standing up. Well, maybe so. Maybe so. But it's a lie. Historically, it's a lie. Jesus wasn't speaking of political freedom anyway. When he talked about freedom, he wasn't talking about political freedom. We're going to cast off the bondage of the Romans. I'm going to lead you into freedom. We're going to be a free nation again. Jesus never proclaimed that. His freedom had nothing to do with politics. His freedom had everything to do with spiritual freedom. Freedom from the bondage of sin. Freedom of serving a master called Satan. That's the freedom that Jesus offered. And he said, the truth will set you free. Will give you that freedom from the power of sin. Will break the chains. Jesus answered and said, most assuredly I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave to sin. Powerful statement. Whoever commits sin, do you commit sin? Don't have to nod your head or raise your hand at this point in time. I'm just asking you to, in your own heart, consider this. Jesus answered them and said, most assuredly I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave to sin. And you're saying in your heart, you're saying, well, wait a minute, I still sin. I commit sin. Am I still a slave? Because Jesus offered me freedom through his truth, and I've accepted his word as truth. Am I free? Well, yes, you will sin. We all do. We're human beings. When Jesus is talking about committing sin, he is talking about a lifestyle of sin. Someone that cannot help themselves from sinning. They desire to sin. I want to do these things because I enjoy it so much. Those lifestyles are so enjoyable. Wouldn't you just love to be a prostitute? Wouldn't you? How about a drug addict? Wouldn't you just love to shoot heroin in your veins? Would you love to do it? How about just a crack addict? I mean, just a crackhead. No big deal, huh? Smoke a little crack on the weekend. No big deal. That's okay, isn't it? Is it? No. Do you think that those people enjoy what they're doing? Do you think those heroin addicts love to shoot stuff in their veins? And because their veins collapse in their arm, they start shooting other places between their toes. I mean, it's crazy. And it's all for fun. Because I'm having such a good time. See, that's a slave to sin. You're not having a good time. You serve a master, a cruel master. And Jesus says, I offer you freedom. I'll take you out of that. And I will set you free through the truth. Because what everybody else fed you about what a wonderful time you're going to have if you just smoke on this pipe, if you just shoot this up in your veins, and all kinds of money you can make as being a prostitute. And there's tons of other things. I just threw those out because I was going to say I'm more familiar with them, but because they came to mind to me for some reason. All mankind has sinned since Adam and have been slaves to sin. Everybody has been a slave to sin. You're saying, there was never a point in my time that I prostituted, that I smoked crack. There were things that you did in your life that you did because you were a slave to them.